Cool.
Shall we go?
Hey.
Ring us in?
What?
Ring us in.
Ring us in?
Yeah.
I'm just going to say the intro.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to Overthinking Episode 10.
I'm definitely keeping the first part of this in the
Let me
episode.
shoot that again. Welcome to Overthinking Episode 10, where we take fun, interesting ideas, overanalyze them, and run them to their logical conclusions. All in the name of exploration, education, and most importantly, entertainment.
I'm Luke.
And I'm Devin.
And we don't claim to be experts in any of the topics discussed here today. We simply find these ideas interesting as we hash them out in real time. Get ready to join us on this exciting, fun, and crazy ride to nowhere.
And this week, I can either tell you where we are or where we're going, but we can't tell you both. Thank you, Werner Heisenberg.
What a wonderful, wonderful little place to be as we discuss today's topics of paradoxes.
Luke, what are you drinking?
Oh, I have cold coffee.
Oh, all right. That's
wonderful.
boring.
It's boring.
I love that mug, though.
Right?
I like that.
Isn't it great?
Nice, yeah.
It's a nice mug. I got it from
what's it say?
It's a Letter with Crowder.
I like it.
Yeah. Do you watch him?
No.
No? Okay. I think he's interesting.
All right.
Yeah. But anyway, we're not here to promote anybody but us.
But we did talk about Adam Ruins Everything in episode 4, and
which I do not plug.
no, that was a hard plug. You should guys go back, listen to it. Luke is like huge fan of Adam's. Huge fan.
Why do you do this to me, Devin? Are you drinking anything? Are you drinking anything today?
Yeah. I had a plan, but my stomach's kind of upset right now, so
Aww.
I ditched my plan, and I am drinking both. I have a cup of coffee that
Okay.
I'm a little afraid of for the same reason.
Because of all the eggs you spilled? Get some salmonella in your coffee?
So I get to have this cool mystery blue drink that is a little bit more soothing for my stomach.
Mystery blue
It's
drink. Is that what it's called? Is that just the name, mystery blue
cool
drink?
blueberry lavender. It's a vitamin water.
Oh, interesting. Well, enjoy that. I'll enjoy. Oh, wow, we're really, really boring today. I guess yours probably tastes way better than mine.
It looks fascinating.
It does. It looks
Actually,
like something I want to swim in.
The first time I tried it, I actually like the first response I had was it actually like cognitive dissonance moment of like this tastes like it's higher end than something that comes in a plastic bottle.
Yeah, the funny plastic versus glass. I mean, like root beer. Getting root beer in a glass bottle. Oh, it's the best thing in the entire world. Having that same root beer in plastic is.
So that's actually, it's not the same. Depending on how it's served, the mixing to create the drink is different.
Wait, really?
So if it's going to be in a glass bottle, they prepare it differently than
Wait,
if it's going to
seriously?
be in a metal can.
Is that your
fountain.
Is that your secrets uncovered for today? Boom. No, it's not. No,
I don't have one planned, so sure.
Well, okay, let's backtrack a little bit. Let's warm up our brains before we get into the mind-bending world of paradoxes. Let's warm up our brains with a little bit of secrets uncovered. I was quiet.
There was no sound effect.
Are you proud
there
of me?
is a sound effect, but Luke didn't make any noises.
Yes, I didn't make any noises. Are you proud? Yes, you are.
I'm impressed. Yes.
Yes, because it's hard. It's so hard. I want to now. It's a little itch in the back of my mind. I just want to go boom, boom, boom.
Go ahead.
Okay, there you go. I did.
He did it. He ruined it.
Otherwise, I won't be able to focus. I'm not going to be able to focus on anything.
Because you focus so well anyway.
Fine, I'll take that. Yeah, I think I don't. Let's see. What did I have? I had something and I didn't write it down. So of course now it's gone. As one
Rookie
does.
move.
As one does. But yeah. Oh, I think. Oh, okay. I'll say this. I say this with the quarantine going on right now. I in particular can't go anywhere because of the possibility that someone in my household has the virus. So I legitimately, and I don't know. I was feeling sick one day and then I felt better. So I don't know, but I'm just playing it really safe and I'm basically not going anywhere. So I took the last few days or like most of the week, let's say half of the week, a little more than half, and I just really just relaxed. I built amazing things in Minecraft, leveled up in Call of Duty, watched some great movies with the family, played a ton of games, and it read a bunch, and it was really nice. And now, starting this week, a bunch of stuff is starting up. Like you and I know, and I have other stuff that I'm working on with a friend, and so a different friend, I should say. And it was really nice to have that time and then get back into things. And it was just a really nice, interesting thing, because usually what happens is I feel very lethargic and I don't like just the relaxing part. But for some reason, maybe just the whole situation that's going on, I'm like, oh, I actually enjoyed this. And it was fun. And I feel good that I did it. So yeah, it's a little bit of an interesting thing of like trying to understand how to balance relaxing with just being lazy, you know? So,
Yeah.
I'll say that's my thing.
Right on.
That's what I tried to improve and learn upon today. Yeah, so it's a fun little time. But yeah, I mean, next week is going to be awesome. It's going to be busy, hopefully.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm ready for action, ready to do things. I have a new website that's going to be coming out. Oh, it'll be out. I started promoted it on our last podcast that we recorded. We already talked about it. I need to get that up hopefully today. But yeah, okay. I mean, I guess that's it. That was a little bit of a shorter one. Today's episode, I mean, let's see. It might be a little bit of a shorter episode. I think that'll be fine. You know,
We do what we want.
we do what we want, and you can't tell us otherwise. If you don't like it, then leave. I haven't said that in a while. I feel like I need to pound it in again.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's heard you
Yeah.
say that in every single episode, always.
Okay, so when it gets into paradoxes, though, do you want to flip flop, like go back and forth?
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I start? Because I have a story.
Sure.
All right. So the first paradox, there's two paradoxes I heard first. Okay, one that I'm not really going to talk about is the one that's saying oh no, I should have written this down and not just did it off the top of my head. I know
Rookie
Devin's
move.
shaking his head. I know, rookie move. You probably know this one. It's where if you say yes, like if someone's saying like yes, I will cross the bridge, and they won't. No, oh no, Devin, I messed up. I didn't write this down. I have no idea what I'm about to say. I don't remember the paradox.
Are you trying to hint at like the general like truth value paradox of like this
Yes.
statement is false?
Yes, if this statement is
Yeah.
false, then it is true.
Then it is false. Then.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. Thank you. You saved me. That's what it is. So it's like saying if this statement is false, then it is true. And you're like, well, no, but then if it's true, then it's false, and you can't have that simultaneously coexisting.
Right.
And for me,
a fun extension of that is the statements like just like the phrase like there is no truth.
Oh yeah, is that a truth?
Yeah. Is that true?
Exactly.
No. Okay, then it was pointless.
Yeah.
If it is true, then it's wrong and
Yeah.
therefore not true.
Exactly.
Like, my favorite expression my favorite response I've ever heard to that was, and things like it is, your perspective is only true when first assumed false.
Whoa.
It's like this, like there is no truth.
Yeah.
You're only right if you start by assuming you're wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
And see, that's why, like, for me, paradox, and this is why I was interested to talk to, especially with you, because I think your brain can handle them a little better. For me, it's those trippy little perspective tricks where it looks like you're going up, like it's an infinite loop. You know, have you seen this? I might put one in. I'll put one in the.
You're
in the
talking
show notes.
about like
the infinite
like optical illusions.
Yeah,
like the infinite staircase.
Yeah, infinite staircase. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
For me, like that's how paradoxes are visualized in my brain. Is the infinite staircase.
I think
where,
that's
like,
fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where like this is impossible, yet I'm seeing it, so it exists. What? How? And there's a game that was going around, like a mobile game that was going around a while ago that played on that exact perspective trick, to where you can jump between things by changing the perspective.
That's fun.
It was really really inventive, really cool.
So it's actually more philosophical than actually paradoxical, but that just brings me to like at some point in this episode, because it's going to make the most sense, I want to talk to you about perfect spheres.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just because it's fun.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely be down for that. But yeah, so anyway, so that what I was getting at with the if this is false and true, this is a true statement. That and the unexpected hanging paradox were the two that introduced me to paradoxes. Those are the first two. I can't remember which order I heard them in. I just know that those are the first two, and I was fascinated. I was completely baffled by how this could exist. So that's my first. So my first paradox I wanted to bring up. It's classically called the unexpected hanging paradox. You could call it whatever you want. It really doesn't matter. But here's how it goes. Okay, so a judge tells a condemned prisoner that he will be hanged at noon on one weekday in the following week, but the execution will be a surprise to the prisoner. He does not know the day he will not know the day of the hanging until the executioner knocks on his cell door at noon that day. Having reflected on his sentence, the prisoner draws the conclusion that he will escape the hanging. His reason is in several parts. He begins by concluding that the surprise hanging can't be on Friday, as if he hasn't been hanged by Thursday, there's only one day left, so it won't be a surprise if he's hanged on Friday, right? Since the judge's sentence stipulated that the hanging would be a surprise to him, he concludes it cannot occur on Friday. Then he reasons that the surprise hanging cannot be on Thursday either, because Friday has already been eliminated, and if he hasn't been hanged by Wednesday noon, then hanging must occur on Thursday, making Thursday not a surprise either. And then, of course, he concludes that it must not occur on Wednesday, Tuesday, or Monday because of the same reasoning. So he retires to the cell confident that the hanging won't occur at all, because he can't be surprised. The next week, the execution knocks on the prisoner's door at noon on Wednesday, which, despite all the above, was an utter surprise to him. Everything the judge said come true. This was really the first thing that introduced me. I was like, wait, what? Let me understand this. And honestly, still, paradoxes for me is also like, it's also like a little bit of like a thrill for my brain. It's like, what is this? I don't understand this yet. It's cool and exciting. This I really liked. You've heard this? Have you heard this one?
I heard a version of it. The way that I first heard it was there's no such thing as a surprise quiz.
Oh, so they're actually breaking it to real world, huh?
Yeah. So if the teacher tells you that there's going to be a quiz next week and it's going to be a surprise, then by definition it can't be a surprise.
Exactly. But the thing is, so the question I always had when I looked at this though is that you could follow that logic, but I think the flaw is that once you eliminated Friday, then all of a sudden you could be surprised on that day since you've now eliminated it. So I think that's like the real flaw in the logic, right? Is that because by the fact of eliminating it, it now becomes an opportunity to be surprised.
So I actually think it's an issue of perspective is the concern. Right. Friday can't be a surprise because by Thursday.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true.
Right,
yeah.
Like the rationale is
true.
By
Friday,
Thursday
yes.
At noon,
yes,
I will know that it is Friday. Therefore, Friday.
Yeah.
It's not Thursday yet.
Right.
I think it actually falls victim to the same mental hurdle that like the law of averages does.
Okay.
So the law of averages is the idea that it's the belief that salesmen always talk about that if you close 1 out of 10 people and you haven't closed the last 9 people, the next one's a sale.
Exactly. Yeah, we talked. Yep.
Right. And we've mentioned that on the show. I don't know what episode, but
I think it was episode 3 with the fallacies.
Okay, cool.
We talked about fallacies. So check that out if you haven't already.
And I think it's the same issue. Is that I think it's the opposite issue of going the wrong way, because the law of averages misunderstands probability, where right. I have a 10% close rate. It doesn't matter what I did with the last 9 people. Yeah, I still have a 10% close rate.
Exactly. It's like flipping a coin. You're not guaranteed.
Right. So if you start at the beginning and you say, okay, so I need to talk to 10 people today, you're accurate. Exactly. Statistically, if you talk to 10 people, you should close one. Mm-hmm. But if you go any point in the middle, at that point, you still need to talk to 10 people to guarantee a close.
Yeah.
So you actually never guarantee a close with statistics and with that probability stack.
Interesting. Yeah.
But I think this does the opposite issue where it's extrapolating, if I was that far into this, then I would know that this, and it would not be a surprise.
Right.
But you're not yet. The Friday only isn't a surprise if it's Thursday right now.
Yeah. And okay. I see that. Okay. Yeah, this is. And honestly, I thought I'm now realizing that I thought I understood this like years ago, and I think maybe I'm remembering, because this was long. This is like maybe 10 years ago. You know, that this was in like some kind of like book or something, and I was like, oh wow. And I think I just accepted that it was a paradox, and that there was like, I don't think I even thought about flaws in logic whenever I'm not thinking about it. I'm like, yeah.
To be perfectly fair, there's maybe 4 conditions that create something that seems paradoxical. One is a simple flaw in logic.
Okay. Right.
One is proper logic but improper premises.
Okay.
Because like, if all the premises are true, the conclusion's true, doesn't mean that the premises were actually true, right?
Mm-hmm.
One is like a misunderstanding of circumstance. Okay. But the most interesting one is true logical paradoxes, where everything that was stated is logically valid and sound, and the conclusion is wrong. And those are fascinating. And I'd have to look into it to be sure. The unexpected hanging paradox could very well be an example of sound, valid logic with a false conclusion. Yeah. Which is...
which throws into... Well, I think that makes you think of deductive reasoning. If you have sound logic... Well, I guess the premise, you'd also have to say in this example that the premise would have to be true as well, to reach a true result. But then that throws the deductive reasoning, you know.
Well, right. That's what makes true logical paradoxes so interesting, is
exactly
you've used deductive reasoning appropriately.
Right.
And so they're rare. And there's maybe I can find it, but there's a YouTube channel that does paradoxes.
Oh, really?
And there's I don't know the terms for all of the different situations I just described. Mm-hmm. But at the beginning of every paradox that they discuss, they say, leave a comment. Which of these is it? Like, what category does it fit in?
Interesting. Okay.
And so that's actually the only reason I know that there's the types of paradoxes.
Huh. That is
research for this episode.
Hey, well, we learned 2 on these. And I know
every week.
Yep. And sometimes we learn a little bit less than and sometimes we learn a lot, either from each other or just from doing research for this. So do we find the mistake in this, like
I feel confident with the response I gave. Like, it seems to make sense to me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's actually something that I would like. I already have it up on its own tab. Like, what is the flaw in logic in the unexpected hanging paradox?
Oh, you do?
I'm gonna dig it out. I'm gonna find it. But
okay.
Just because I'm interested, and like egotistically, I want somebody to say that I'm right. To the 2 listeners, leave comments. Tell me I'm right. I'll feel good about it.
Both you and me.
Yeah. Because we kicked everybody else out.
Yep. That's right. Just for us.
Tell me I'm right, Luke.
You're right, Devin. Always. You're always right. There we go. So that was the reason I wanted to bring that up first, because this is like introduction. It holds a very special place in my heart. And I think it's like one of the most classic ones around a paradox and around, I guess, sound logic that doesn't really make sense. You done with this one? You want to move on to your first one?
Yeah, sure. What one should I go with? How do I want to start it?
I don't know. How do you? That's up to you.
It's a good question. So I have, what do I have? I have 5 paradoxes listed. Okay. One of them's just really, really funny.
Okay.
I kind of want to save that one for the end because there's not much to say about it, which is funny. 2 of them are incredibly symbolic in my life's trajectory, and it's just because of where I learned about them and what the implication of it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of them is my favorite paradox ever. So,
Okay.
what of those descriptions, which one do you want me to start with?
Well, I just gave my introduction, so why don't you do the other one, not your favorite one?
Okay. So I'll do Zeno's paradox.
Okay.
Because when I tell this story, I always use Zeno's paradox, and I tend to forget about the other one.
Okay.
So Zeno's paradox, I did running start, so I was in college classes when I was in high school. My junior and senior year of high school, those were my freshman and sophomore years of college as well.
Okay.
So I was taking calculus. The college I went to separates calculus into 4 sections. I was taking the first section.
Okay.
And I was pretty convinced, because I didn't even actually need that class technically, that was going to be the last math class I ever took.
Okay.
And somewhere near the end of the term, and my professor knew that I wasn't taking any more math. I went to his office. I don't remember why. I had some sort of a question, and we ended up talking for, I don't know, probably an hour and a half.
Oh, wow.
And I think it only took him like 5 minutes to answer my question. But we started talking about some really cool like implications of some mathematics. What actually opened the rabbit hole was I at the time didn't understand and hadn't heard anything, and just asked him, how can you prove that something is impossible in math, and that we don't just understand it yet? Like, how can you prove that it can't be done versus we can't do it?
Okay, that's a good question.
And so that was he introduced me to the concept of a proof by contradiction. Like,
okay,
so you prove that things are impossible by assuming that they are possible, and then seeing what that breaks.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Why can't we divide by 0? Because if we could divide by 0, then 1 could equal any other number. And that doesn't make any sense.
Right. Yeah.
Things like that.
Okay.
And I do that proof all the time. That's a fun one for me. Then he got into telling me about Zeno's paradox. And I'll skip to the end of the story so that we can focus on the paradox and just say why this is such an important paradox to me. When he presented the paradox, I sat there and I looked at him and I was like, okay, so why was he wrong? He's like, that's a good question. Zeno actually wanted to know why he was wrong too, but he never figured it out. Newton figured it out when he discovered calculus.
No.
I was like, so calculus answers Zeno's paradox? Yeah, fully. So why was he wrong? It's a good reason to take more math.
Yep.
So I took more math.
And
ended up majoring in it. Yeah. Because he tricked me, because he was able to answer that question in like 5 minutes. But he just wasn't willing to answer it in that conversation. So Zeno's paradox, I'm going to present 2, because they're two different thought experiments that led him to the same conclusion.
Okay.
The first one is he presented it as a race. It's a race between a tortoise and Achilles. Achilles being the fastest, strongest, best Greek warrior of all time.
Yeah.
He said if Achilles were to have a foot race with a tortoise, if he gave the tortoise any sort of a head start, he would lose the race.
Yeah.
Because in order for him to pass the tortoise, he must first get to the point where the tortoise is currently at. And by the time he will have gotten there, the tortoise will have moved forward.
Yeah.
So when he gets to this new position, the tortoise will have moved forward. So on and so on and so on. He can't win the race. The way that this is most commonly expressed is if I want to close the distance between you and me, first I must go halfway.
Right.
And before I do that, I must go halfway. And before I do that, and so on and so on and so on.
Exactly.
So that's the paradox of the race. And Zeno's paradox, the conclusion is motion is impossible. Despite what we perceive, the math doesn't allow it to work. There is no motion. The other one that he drew the same conclusion with is known as the arrow paradox. If I shoot an arrow, and then we track the arrow, and we stop at a singular moment in time, motion is measured either by the moving into a position or the moving out of a position.
Mm-hmm.
And in a singular moment of time, the arrow is neither moving into the position it's in, because it's already there, nor is it moving out of the position it's in. So in any moment of time, in
Whoa. Everything okay there?
I have cats.
They're the cats. Okay.
Yeah. So in a singular moment of time, nothing is moving.
Yeah.
And time is made up of these moments.
Mm-hmm.
And in any moment of time, nothing is moving. Then it also follows that in all moments of time, nothing is moving.
Yeah.
Therefore, nothing is moving.
I like that. Yeah, because I know you've talked about the first one, but I don't think I've heard the arrow explained in that way.
Yeah, I like the arrow a lot.
So
the arrow wasn't presented to me that day, so
right.
It's just another way that Zeno expressed the same concern.
Can you is the calculus too complicated to explain how that solves it?
The shortest shorthand answer is the Greeks didn't understand the idea of infinity.
Oh, okay.
And calculus relies on the mathematical fact that you can do an infinite amount of things in a finite space, or an infinite amount of actions in a finite amount of time.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So as soon as you start like invoking infinity, you get all the cool side effects of infinity, and all of a sudden motion makes sense again.
Invoking infinity and then having side effects from that invocation.
Yeah, so like this is a really fun one to me. Anything raised to a power is it being multiplied by whatever that power is, right?
Yeah.
So 2 raised to the power of 2 is 2 times 2. 2 raised to the power of 5 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, right? 1 multiplied by any number is just that number, right?
Yeah.
So 1 times 1 is 1.
Yeah.
1 times 1 times 1 times 1 is 1.
Yeah.
Right? 1 to any power should always be 1, right?
Right.
1 to the power of infinity is E.
Oh.
Yeah, it's 2.71.
That's right,
And that's just that to me is like the coolest, trippiest thing, but it's a provable fact. Like you multiply whole numbers, the number 1, an infinite number of times, and you get an irrational number that's like more than twice as big as 1.
That's wild. Because I took calculus at one point. I hated it, and I didn't understand it mostly. And I don't know why I even did it. That's awesome. That's something I never actually learned. Wow. Okay, now I can't think of anything else other than the fact that 1 to an infinity powers.
The math to prove that isn't easy to grasp.
I would assume not. I don't think that it could be like, you just multiply these together, divide it by this, and then boom. Somehow you get 1 is a bigger number when you multiply it by itself. That's fascinating. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you've blown my mind already. So, I've already overthought this. So, I guess we're done.
Luke's done.
I'm just sitting here comatose right now. Wow. That's awesome. Okay. That's cool.
You're up.
I'm up, yeah. The next one, so now here's the problem is that mines are like... All right. So, here's something that I actually thought applied to my actual life.
You thought it did, then you learned it didn't?
No, it actually does.
Oh, okay, cool.
Whatever. You know what I mean. Stop messing with my mind today, Devin. I can't take it, okay? So
Luke, let's do an episode on paradoxes. Also, Luke, stop messing with my mind. I can't take it.
No, now I know this is going to be in the show notes, Devin. Now I know this is going to be a header in the show notes. You're going to be that exact quote is going to be bolded, highlighted, and underlined.
Yes, it will be.
No. Oh, okay. Maybe I'll make a clip out of this and I'll embarrass myself first. and then you can't embarrass me, right?
We talked about that earlier
We did
today,
talk
right?
about that earlier, and I taught Devin what 8 Mile
You can't
was.
blackmail me with something I already used as my stand-up
Yep.
material.
Boom. There we go. So anyway, mine comes from a 1961 novel. Who knew this was actually a novel? It was about bureaucratic constraints in soldiers in World War II. You know what it was called? Catch-22. Boom, a term we've all heard. Catch-22. So here's the... So
What is a catch-22?
Oh, thank you so
That's
much.
like
for-
where both options suck, right? That's the way we use it.
That's the way we use it, but that's not the true way. That's actually not its real definition. So, which is interesting to me on how the real definition of it is something almost completely different. It's a tangential. I can see the tangential, like how people got to that from this example. But I think this is actually a really interesting situation that Joseph Heller coined in his book. And in the book, the book reads is that you mean there's a catch. Sure, there's a catch. Catch-22. Anyone who wants to get out of combat duty isn't really crazy.
Oh, got it.
Yep.
I understand.
Right?
I've heard this paradox, but not titled a catch-22.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
interesting. Okay, maybe he took it from old philosophers then. At least this is how it got popularized, right? Because so basically, it's that if you fear death by battle, you're not crazy. So therefore, you should be sane. Therefore, you're determined sane to go into battle. But if you're determined sane, you still go into battle, right? So it's a catch-22. That's why I can kind of see the tangential thing. To
Can I explain that better?
Yeah, please.
So the paradox is in World War II, anybody who is like enlisted into military duty can plead insanity, and if they are found insane, be removed from combat.
Right.
But if you request to be removed from combat from reason of insanity, then we can assume that you fear combat and therefore are sane.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So either way, there's actually no way out. So by that thing, it's like, oh yeah, if you plead insanity, you can get out. That's actually false, right? So that's why I can see like where both options suck, because kind of both options suck no matter what. But what it kind of is that it's a law that doesn't actually do anything. It exists as a loophole. As
you know what's funny? When I was researching paradoxes for today, I saw this one.
Oh, really?
And I wasn't even remotely interested in it. And the main reason why is I like immediately read it and was like, well, of course, somebody else could say that you're insane, though. That's how they get you out of there so you don't harm other people. Like,
interesting. Yeah.
So, like, your commander can be like, this guy's insane. Can we move him from the battlefield so he doesn't shoot our men?
Yeah.
Does he want out of the battlefield?
Yeah.
No, he's happy to be here.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, he's insane.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, that is a way around it. I think that with a lot of paradoxes, there are answers to them. But yeah, so that was a really interesting thing for me because it's something that we use in common society, in culture and language. And I saw it and I was like, wait a minute, this is where it's from. This is the correct usage. These are different examples of it, which is fun. So definitely, I mean, I didn't realize that was a book. I wonder what the book is actually. I guess it's just about the bureaucraticness of World War II. I guess that sounds a little. I don't know. That could be interesting. I guess. Who knows? Maybe we'll do a live book read of Catch-22.
Maybe not though.
Maybe it could be fun. Who knows? Don't diss it until you try it. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for that one. So although I kind of wanted to create one, I think I might save it because I couldn't really think of anything. Just like for my own life, I wanted to create something where I could slip it into a conversation that someone can assume that it's like an agreement, but it actually only benefits me no matter which option they choose. You know?
Heads I win, tails you lose.
Okay, fine. Whatever. Thanks, Evan, for doing something, again, better than me, quicker than me. Okay, fine. Heads I win, tails you lose. There we go. We've done it. Catch 22. I guess that... Fine, I guess that is kind of a catch 22. You want to move on to your next one?
Sure. The second one that we talked about that day, my professor and I, is the Coastline Paradox.
Right.
And this is a really cool, like, just mathematical paradox.
Mm-hmm.
And before I get into the Coastline Paradox, I'm going to give, like, an abstract example. Do you know what a... do you know what a fractal is?
Yeah, is it a mathematical thing around shapes?
It's kind of mathematical. It's definitely shapey, though.
Yeah, that's all I know.
So,
that's all I know.
A fractal is an image that, if you zoom in on any one point, you'll see basically the same pattern.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Okay, got it.
Right. So the overall image and then this zoomed in spot look exactly the same.
Got it. Yeah.
Basically, right? The like quintessential example of a fractal is, generally speaking, a Coach snowflake.
Oh yeah.
We draw an equilateral triangle, and you draw equilateral triangles at the 1/3 points on the sides.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen this?
Yeah, a while ago.
Okay, so
whenever I learned about snowflakes.
Okay, so like stage 1, it just looks like an equilateral triangle. Stage 2, it looks like a Star of David.
Mm-hmm.
Then you continue with that pattern, but smaller, right?
Yeah.
So if you take a Coach snowflake,
Okay.
where your initial equilateral triangle has a length of 1 inch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then you continue that pattern an infinite number of times.
Yeah.
You will end up with a shape that has an area of 0.69-ish inches squared.
Okay.
And a perimeter that's infinitely long.
Wait, what? How do you get an infinite perimeter?
So, if we look at just one side of the triangle,
Yeah.
one line, it's 1 inch, right?
Yeah.
So then at the 1/3 points, we add a triangle,
Yeah.
right? That's now 1/3 of the length.
Yeah.
So now that one side, instead of being 1 inch, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 thirds of an inch,
Okay. Right.
right? So take the initial perimeter, which was 3,
Mm-hmm.
and each step we multiply it by 4/3. But we do that an infinite number of times. So mathematically, it's really easy to show its perimeter is infinitely long, and its area is finite, and its area is actually quite small.
Whoa.
So most people, you show them about a Coach snowflake, and you're like, cool, that's a cool like mathematical idea, but like we don't have pens that have fine enough points to even draw the shape you're talking about.
Right.
So like, cool idea, bro.
Yeah.
Right? But the idea holds with geography.
Okay.
So like when you try to like map the coastline of anything,
Right.
like any island, country, continent,
Yeah.
you'd think that should be pretty easy. You just measure the length of a coastline.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you actually look into it and see like what's the length of the perimeter of the U.S., there's a lot of extremely different answers to that question. And like there's answers that are multiple times bigger than other answers.
Wait, what?
All issued by our government. And the reason why is somewhat simple, but also somewhat irrational and crazy.
Alright.
It comes down to the unit of measurement that we choose to use.
Mm-hmm.
So the example that I heard, and that's the most common when introducing people to this real life paradox,
Yeah.
is using the coastline of Great Britain.
Okay.
Okay. So if you choose that you want to use a measuring stick of 100 kilometers to measure the coastline of Great Britain,
Okay.
then you'll end up using 28 measures, and the coastline is 2,800 kilometers long.
Okay.
Okay. Sure. If you decide that you want to use a measuring stick of 50 kilometers, you end up using 68 segments, and the coastline ends up being 3,400 kilometers long.
Oh, okay.
In fact, the smaller your unit of measurement, the longer the coastline.
Yeah.
So, actually, when you measure it and you start running the numbers, the measurement of the coastline of Great Britain, as your unit of measurement gets smaller,
Yeah.
its coastline approaches infinity.
Oh, wow.
Like, theoretically, we
Yeah.
could get down to a point where we're, like, trying to count, like, atom by atom.
Right.
But that's not only unpractical and
Yeah.
technically impossible,
Yeah.
but it's also, like, the conclusion would be that the coastline of Great Britain is millions of miles long, and at that point, like, who knows how to use that?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah. That's fascinating. Wow. Okay. So that actually affects our real life.
yeah. So this is
Yeah.
like, geographically speaking, map makers and
Yeah.
like, it's actually a big issue.
Yeah, of course.
Um,
Do they have like do you know if they have like an agreed like measurement that they
I
say?
don't, but I do know that this was first observed and understood and put to words because of a disagreement between the length of a border between two countries.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they got two wildly different answers for how long their border was when they both measured.
Wow. I mean, I guess that's the problem is though, like I'm thinking about that and now that comes into such play when talking about protecting borders and how much you need, like how much material, like, you know, like, because I'm
And
just
the issue is the further you zoom in,
yeah,
you don't get straight lines on real borders.
exactly.
If you got straight lines, it'd be really easy to measure.
Right.
But that's not the way coastlines work.
Exactly, and it's not only straight lines, but you have difference in elevation as well. So you have so you have, you know, unstraight lines in 3 dimensions. I'm just thinking about, like, when it comes to, like, because I mean the big topic right now is the border, you know, in the U.S. And I'm
I
just,
thought the big topic right now was the coronavirus.
well, I mean one of the big topics, right? Or at least it was the big topic. And now I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, that's really interesting because people debate all the time how much it would cost to protect the border. By various whatever, you know, what.
How much does it cost to build the wall? Depends on how long of a wall you
Exactly.
want. Well, we want a wall the length of the border. Yeah, but how long do you want the wall?
Yeah. That's such, like, that's like, you're talking about like if possibly billions of dollars in difference based on a type of measurement.
Yeah. And if you measure
Wow.
not accurately enough, then you underbid, and if you measure more accurately than the building material, then you overbid.
Right.
And
that's something that would affect us directly by taxes.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that China didn't even think about that when they built their wall.
Well,
They're
yeah.
just like, no, we're just gonna do it.
yeah, we're just gonna build a wall. I mean, I doubt that. You mean like the Great Wall?
Kings and emperors get that luxury of
Just-
no expense matters.
Yeah,
Just do it.
And basically, we're just gonna build the wall, and that's our border.
Yeah.
Like,
the funny thing though is the Great Wall of China.
yeah,
Its length is actually estimated in the same basic way that borders are, so we
Right.
don't know how long the Great Wall of China is. Fun fact.
that's blowing. It's such a. Oh. I'm thinking about all the different things that, like, everything you're like, how can you trust how round my mug is? What the perimeter is?
Well, that one's a constant. Those are easy. The
Really?
issue with real life is you don't get constant shapes.
Well, I
You
mean,
don't
this
get
isn't.
the
I mean,
straight
I'm
lines. You don't
thinking
get
though,
the
like,
solid curves.
I'm thinking, like, but just even like, I mean, nothing is constant. Nothing is a mathematical. You know, nothing's a perfect sphere, right? Like, what you. So you say that? I think you say that on podcast. I think you said that before, and you were hinting.
I said that I want to talk about.
You want to talk
spheres.
about perfect spheres? Yeah. I'm just
So
thinking.
let's talk about perfect spheres.
Okay. You want to? I mean, I only have 3. You have 5. So You're showing me. You want to just lead into that?
Well, I mean, that's not even on the list.
Oh, it's not on the list?
It was also part of the conversation that I
it.
had the same day that I talked about this
Yeah,
one.
talk about it.
And it was, and this is more of a philosophical, like, just an like eye opener if you understand it, and if that's going to be up to me to explain it well.
Mm-hmm.
So Luke, I want, and anyone at home listening, play along, but I'm going to talk to Luke because I know his name. I want you to imagine in your mind,
What?
like,
Good at that.
imagine like a white void.
A what?
A white void.
Oh, void. At least it's boy.
Yeah.
I'm looking at one. I don't have to imagine that.
Wow.
Okay, a white void. Got it.
Okay. And in the middle of your line of sight in this white void, I want you to imagine a floating white sphere.
Okay.
This sphere is as big or as small as you think it is because there's no constants around you to compare it to.
Right.
This sphere, this perfect white sphere, is flawless. It meets the definitions of a sphere. It is a perfect sphere.
Right.
Does this sphere exist?
I would say by my observation of it, I would have to say that it exists.
So, this is an introduction into the idea of abstract objects.
Okay.
Usually when people talk about abstract objects, they talk about things like numbers
Yeah.
that have no physical material representation, but everyone knows they exist.
Right.
But I like using the white sphere. I think most people answer no, usually.
Oh, really?
They're like, I just imagined the sphere, and like, no, like a perfect sphere
Oh,
doesn't exist.
are you talking about in the real? Oh, you're talking about like.
No, I just asked if it does it exist.
Oh.
Most people will say no until I press them, and I'm like, really? Because empirically, it affected your senses. You saw it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then they like, oh. And then they usually try to say it still doesn't exist. Like, it exists in your mind.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, sure. I'm like, does the number 1 exist? Yeah. Where?
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I can write it. No, you can write a symbol that represents the idea of the number 1.
Right.
But like a unit, 1,
Yeah.
does it exist? Yeah. Okay, so then that sphere exists too, right? Like,
That's well.
and it, right?
Hey,
and that's just like an introduction to philosophy.
Yeah.
Open up your minds on what abstract objects are. And
That's honestly that's a really interesting introduction. Because I mean, because there's a joke like I think several times on this podcast I've called numbers imaginary, or no, not imaginary. I've called them like something like them not real. And I know I was just listening. When I was editing the episode with Dean, both you and Dean. I was like, yeah, something like numbers. Well, something we want something real. And both of you are like, well, actually, I'm like, oh, calm down there. I meant by the fact that you can't there is like no you can't point to a number.
So the fun one that I always really appreciate is like it's a noting of the limitations of the scientific method.
No.
Is scientific method relies on empirical data, which fundamentally means it relies on things that affect your senses.
Okay.
If an observer
Yeah.
cannot see, smell, touch, hear, or feel something,
Yeah.
you can't get scientific data on it.
Right.
The scientific method can't observe it.
Yep.
By scientific reasoning, by the empirical method that we use for scientific reasoning, your brain doesn't exist.
Yeah. Or consciousness.
No, your physical brain doesn't exist.
What do you mean?
I mean, I can't see it, smell it, touch it, feel it, or taste it.
Oh,
The only way for me to know that your brain exists
is like cutting me open.
is to cut you open. And until I do that, I cannot conclude that it does.
True.
With the scientific... So that's a shortcoming of the scientific method, right?
Right, exactly.
And you use it with that brain first, and you point out the scientific method would also never be able to prove things like mathematics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it can't affect your senses.
Exactly.
You can't get empirical data on it.
Right.
Does that mean math doesn't exist? No. That's the way I usually open up people up to realizing that like scientific method is not apt for discovering all truths.
Right. And I think I think that's why now I'm having. I always because I looked at some different like mathematical paradox and stuff like that, and I'm like, this is just too abstract for me. I've realized like, as I've grown, I used to love math, and I realized that as it got a little more theoretical, I don't know if that's even the right word. As it got a little more complicated, I should say, it became so abstract that I was just like, I can't visualize this anymore. It's beyond just. That's why I liked physics. Physics was so much fun for me because like this is an arrow. I'm firing this arrow at this speed, at this velocity, with this much force, and this is how I'm going to calculate where it's going to land. And in my mind, I can say, like, is that reasonable, right? If I get the answer of 100 miles, I know I did this wrong because there's no way I could fire an arrow that far, right? So, like, that's why it's very interesting to me as I'm trying to imagine this. I'm like, it's too much. I just want something that's real in front of me. Which is hilarious that we're doing a philosophy podcast because it's entirely made up of things that are real, which is good because it's stretching my.
No, I get that. Actually, in my mathematical journey, I started off in a place where I thought that it's like applied mathematics would be the only things I was interested in.
Yeah.
Because calculus and physics got me interested in math. Mm-hmm. And actually, as I started studying it, I started appreciating abstract mathematics more and more.
Yeah. I'm sure that if I actually took a significant amount of time and actually learned it, then I would be able to appreciate it because I would understand it more. Which I think is an interesting thing, is that it's hard to appreciate something you don't understand. So like, that's why I've learned like with movies. So that, I mean, me and my brother, he's an actual filmmaker, and I wanted to be one, and so. When we talk about movies, we're like, yeah, this and this and this very specifically, and so I'll also say something like, well, that doesn't make sense. We're like, well, no, is that they have a completely different perspective, that they go into this for a completely different thing, and they appreciate it in a completely different way, because they're not looking at it critically like a filmmaker would, who would make it. So I think it's all that to say that other people's perspectives are important, but. When it comes to math, I'll get into my last one if you're okay with that.
Go for it.
I like this one simply because it represented a way of thinking, a way of like broken logic that I feel like I see too much, almost like false correlation, and it's called the Raven Paradox. This was proposed by logician Carl Gustav Hempel in 1940s. As a way to illustrate the contradiction between inductive logic and intuition. So, if this is a hypothesis, right? If all ravens are black, if something is a raven, then it is black, right? If something is not black, then it is not a raven, right? Following the first.
It's called a contrapositive.
Yeah,
that's the correct way of inverting.
It's literally it says via contraposition. The statement is equivalent to, right? So it's the exact same. That is true, right? Mm-hmm. My pet raven is black, right? And then this green apple is not black. That means it's not a raven. By this point, so you're saying that this green apple is not black and is not a raven. Therefore, I can say I'm using this as an example to showcase that if something is not black, then it's not a raven. That's what I wanted to do. At the start of the show, I wanted to go over what a paradox was. I think we kind of talked about it. Because I saw, we kind of did. Because I saw a lot of things that I'm like, oh, that's considered a paradox? That's interesting. I wouldn't have looked at that and considered that an actual paradox. But apparently, and then following this, there's a lot of different positions, and it's long, and it gets in. I'm not sharing my screen with you. It got in a complicated math, and I was like, okay, this is something this takes it a level beyond of that. I understand.
You still talking about the raven?
What? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I simply liked it because I was like, yeah, this flaw in logic. I would consider. I mean.
No, you still haven't even mentioned the part that makes it a paradox, though.
I haven't?
No. You've simply expressed the logical construct and said a true statement.
Maybe that's why I didn't think it was a paradox. Oh, wait. I think I'm confused.
Okay. So...
do you know this one? Do you know what I'm talking about? Can you help me? Thank you, Devin.
Yeah.
Thank you for helping me.
So...
I swear one day I'll do something on this podcast that I have to help you with. Eventually.
Oh, I'm sure you have. It's just doesn't.
I haven't. Don't worry.
I have to look perfect. Here. All ravens are black.
Okay.
If it is a raven, it is black.
Yes.
Okay. The first statement was an assumption. It's a premise.
Yes.
The second one is a deductive causation from that premise.
Yes.
All ravens are black.
Mm-hmm.
The contrapositive of that statement, which is logically equivalent, is if it is not a raven, or if it is not black, it is not a raven.
Yes.
It's a proper contrapositive.
Yes.
So, this is not black, it is not a raven. My notepad is not black, it's not a raven.
Right.
That is logically sound.
Yes.
The paradox comes when you start reflecting on the intuition and what that means. It means that I just looked at something that is not a raven, and from that, learned something about ravens.
Oh. Oh, okay.
So I don't even have to know
interesting.
ravens exist. I look
Yeah.
at this. It's not black, therefore it's not a raven. I've now learned that ravens do not have stripes on them.
That's okay. That makes a lot
Like,
more sense.
or
That's what
maybe they do, but that's
what I
the-
was. Okay, that's part of the stuff that I wasn't understanding then. Okay, good. Okay,
Or we've
okay.
learned that ravens are not yellow.
Right.
Huh. How'd we do that without observing ravens?
Exactly. I see. Okay. The negative instances have no Oh, got it. This all makes so much more sense now. Got it. The
Yay.
negative. So it's either the negative instances have no influence, right? So the fact that that's yellow has no influence on what ravens are. The equivalence condition, which I don't what does that mean?
Say it just says it is an equivalence condition?
Yeah, there's three options here. Or it's validation by positive instances.
I don't know. I don't know what that means.
Where did it go? Oh, here we go. The equivalence condition states that when a proposition X provides evidence in favor of another proposition Y, the next also provides evidence in favor of any proposition that is logically equivalent to Y.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Oh, I did know that. I've
Okay.
had to use that for mathematical proofs.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Or validation by positive. Okay, got it. That makes it this makes it on another level much more. I love that I got something different. I thought I saw this and I was like, that's very interesting in a completely wrong and different way. I took something completely different out of this. That's why I was confused about. I'm now looking at the other paradoxes I read, and I'm like, oh, that's why I was confused about whether it was a paradox or not. Is because I didn't understand the actual what follows because of this.
You need some basic logic in your life, bro.
I thought I did though. I thought I was.
Can I share a
educating logic.
story?
Yeah.
This is really funny. This was my last week as a student teacher.
Okay. Before
'cause
everything shut
the
down.
world shut down.
Yep.
But my cooperating teacher made a statement, maybe he asked a question. I think he asked a question, and his question was structured in the sense of, is it this or is it this?
Mm-hmm.
To which I responded, yes.
Yeah.
And he laughed. And the students in the class, this is a calculus class, by the way,
Okay.
got confused and asked the question. And they're like, well, what's funny? And he's like, oh, yeah. And he looked at me. He's like, they don't understand logic yet. Mm-hmm. And student gets offended. She's like, so you're calling me stupid? And then I laughed. And she's like, what are you laughing at? I was like, formal logic. It's literally mathematics.
Yeah.
And it's like in formal logic, the word or has a distinctive meaning. And that's what I was exploiting.
Got it.
And it's different than how we typically use it in a layman's sense.
Okay.
Typically, when we use the word or, we are implying either or.
Yeah.
But if you don't use the term either, or can actually mean either or both.
Yeah.
So that was what I was
Okay.
exploiting when I just said yes.
Yeah. So I think that this teaches me because I thought I thought I was fairly educated when it came to logic and thinking because I've had a fair amount of education in that regard. But I guess that's the difference. I guess what I realized I didn't have was that the formation of formal logic. Of actually,
take an intro to logic class. They're super fun.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going
and mind
to
bending and frustrating.
I'm definitely gonna do my best to better understand it, because I'm thinking about a lot of the stuff we've talked about. I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely could have benefited from understanding this a lot better. Which, I mean, isn't my catchphrase? I'm not educated enough for that. This.
I thought your catchphrase was "go away."
Well, I have a lot of catchphrases. Okay, I also have the babooms and a lot of different stuff. God, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Did you want? Actually, we're doing pretty good on time right now. We're right along schedule. That was my last one.
Cool.
And honestly, it was more of yours than anything else. So you want to go through? Let's see, how many you have? You have 3 more left. You want to choose? You want to go through them? How do you want to?
I'll go through them.
You go through them?
The Bootstrap Paradox might be a longer one.
Okay.
You
want to say
the
that
Buttered
for
Cat
later,
Paradox is short and fun, and then the Paradox of the Court is just interesting.
You want to do the last?
I don't know how far it can go.
Okay.
Huh?
You want to say the Bootstrap one for later then? If it depends.
I mean, we have time.
Well, we do have to. Okay, yeah. Okay, good. I don't. When you say long, I don't know whether you mean 45 minutes. I don't know whether you mean 15.
Longer than the other 2.
Okay.
Okay. Paradox of the Court. So the story goes, a young law student makes a deal and signs a contract with their professor saying, I will pay you after I win my first case.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And several years go by.
Yeah.
And the professor sues the student for having never paid.
Mm-hmm.
However, the student has not yet won their first case. And now they're in this case with the professor. If the student wins, they now have to pay the professor.
Yeah.
Because they have won their first case.
All right.
If the student loses, they don't have to pay the professor.
Yeah. No. If the student loses and the professor was right, and he still has to pay the professor, right?
No, so the student only has to pay the professor after they win their first case.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
okay. I was mistaken.
But the case is
his first case.
a suit, like a court case for non-payment.
Exactly.
So if the student wins and they pay me, then my case was unfounded.
Right.
If the student loses, then they still can't pay me by my contract. So if the professor wins, he can't get his money, and if the professor loses, he can't get his money.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So the result of the case is going to be with the student not paying the professor.
Yeah, no matter what.
Right.
Huh. That is fun.
Yeah. Just fun. And
yeah.
Okay, Bootstrap Paradox. It's my favorite paradox of all time.
Oh, this one's your favorite. Okay, I was putting myself in your shoes, and I just assumed that the Butter Cat Paradox was your favorite.
Nah, it's just a funny one.
It is. I mean, it's just a funny name. All right, Bootstrap.
Okay.
Bootstrap.
All right.
Bootstraps.
Bootstrap Paradox. It's a time travel paradox.
Okay.
It's just my favorite one of many, many, many time travel paradoxes.
All right.
So I'm gonna give a story.
Mm-hmm.
The story of the Bootstrap Paradox.
Okay.
One day, you hear a ring on your doorbell. You go to the door, you open up, and you don't see anybody there, but you see a box, and it's not addressed.
Mm-hmm.
You pick up the box, and you open it, and inside the box, you see a book, a journal, that has written on the front of it, time machine.
Okay.
You open it up, and you flip through it, and you realize that it's actually instructions on how to build a time machine. At first, you don't think anything of it, and you just put it away, but eventually it starts itching at you, and you're like, I wonder.
Oh.
So you start following the instructions, and you start building the time machine. It takes you a long time to get the money, to get the parts, but after about a decade or so, you've built a time machine. And all of a sudden it hits you. For the last decade, you never knew where that book came from.
Yeah.
So you decide to have your very first trip be back 10 years ago so you can leave the book on your doorstep.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of implications. This is my favorite example of the Bootstrap Paradox, and I'm going to talk to why in a second.
Okay.
But it's the same paradox as like if you go back in time to kill Adolf Hitler,
Right.
then he will not have existed in time to make you want to go back in time to kill him.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, can you do it? It's like,
Yeah.
but
Physically,
this is such a
possible.
more entertaining version to me,
Mm-hmm.
because it tosses in all these interesting unknowns.
Right.
Who wrote that book?
Yeah.
It seems to just be a byproduct of reality.
A
it's just
byproduct
there.
of reality.
Like, who
Yeah.
wrote it?
Yeah.
Like, you didn't write it. Neither did the person who gave it to you, because you're the person who gave it to you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Or a similar, like, let's say instead you go back in time
Mm-hmm.
to tell you meet Albert Einstein,
Yeah.
and you tell him E=mc².
Yeah.
Then who discovered that?
Exactly.
Because Einstein just wrote down what he heard, but you just told him what you learned in school from Einstein.
Right. Exactly. And I mean,
Or if you go back
yeah.
and write the works of Shakespeare. Like,
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of different theories around that. Like when it comes to sci-fi and time travel and stuff like that. One is that you're creating another universe when you go back in time. So you have a completely different dimension. So therefore, that doesn't actually break anything because this is
no. We're in this universe.
I'm
Don't
saying-
break my paradox.
I'm saying there's answers to this.
Don't break my paradox.
Fine, I won't break your paradox. I'll be very nice to it. I'll handle it very nicely since you were so nice to me this episode.
So, the one that I actually appreciate the most about this
Yeah.
is if this is a physical book and it's a physical journal,
Yeah.
you have a physical journal here.
Right.
You've had it for a decade before you've made the time machine. Any physical item should experience wear. How many iterations before the book is now unreadable?
Whoa. That's cool.
Right?
That's cool
And so-
because it's truly like I mean, because if you think about it, it's you say, oh, it's just one time that I experience, like it's 20 years that experience because it just goes back in time. But then you have it, and then it goes back in time again, like it's a loop
Exactly.
of this.
So how many
book.
times does the book run this race before it can't anymore?
And then
And the very first time it can't, time travel never happened.
exactly. Whoa. Okay, I'm kind of upset now that this hasn't been mentioned in a Doctor Who episode, but this is totally something that they would do, and it'd be really, really cool. That's true because so that
How did
itself.
your TARDIS work? I don't know. I was just given a book about it.
Well, TARDISes are souls of time or whatever.
They're grown.
They're grown. That's true.
They're living things.
Yeah, but I think they have like a whatever. I don't know. They have something about their souls.
Neither does Doctor Who.
Yeah, no. He flips bips and bobs and somehow makes it go travel in time. But for any
They're
physical
bigger on
thing,
the inside.
does that? Yeah, but does that mean that any physical thing, time travel? I guess it only. Well, okay. Here's my thought process. Okay. Any physical thing that's left behind by that time. So like, then travels. Then, okay, never mind. I was thinking that that extends to any physical thing that travels in time, but no, it doesn't. Because it'll just decay. Yeah, no, never mind. I was wrong. I was thinking about something really cool, and it ended up not being cool, and it's fake, and it's wrong. Well, that's true because in that example, then time travel didn't happen. But then if time travel didn't happen, then that book never would have been decayed. That never would have happened in the first place.
Yeah.
That's why one thing I'm the most curious about is whether we'll actually be able to crack time travel eventually.
I have a response to that.
Really?
Yeah. It's my favorite answer I've ever heard to the proposition. I'm not convinced I fully believe it, but I want to believe it. 'Cause it makes sense. No, time travel is not possible.
Okay.
We'll never figure it out. And actually, I'm going to give you two answers as to why not.
Okay.
The first one's my favorite one. The second one's my logic.
Okay.
So, no, time travel is not possible. If time travel were ever discovered at any point in time, we would know about it.
Yeah.
So it's not.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah. No, I've heard of that. It's out of that
Right.
as well. Yeah.
And the way that I first heard it was like, it would be the best kept secret of all time, which
Yeah. It would be impossible because someone, sometime,
or it doesn't exist.
Right.
There's an episode of The Big Bang Theory that I really appreciate. It shows
I didn't know you
them
watched that.
signing shows them signing their roommate agreement.
Yeah.
And there's a point in it. They're going through it. They both have to initial and agree. If either of us in the future, or anyone who knows, ever discovers time travel, the very first use of it has to be coming back to this time.
Yes. They look around.
Bummer.
Yeah, I do remember that. For all the hate that show gets, I enjoyed it. I watched all 11 seasons or something like that. It's not intelligent or witty, but it's enjoyable. I liked it. I
loved it for the first 2 seasons. Appreciated it until season 9 started.
Yeah, I get that. I understand that. It was like a safe geeky way, a safe way to just kind of geek out a little bit, you know. Where you're like, none of this is like, none of this is real.
So it started out really high level the first season, and you can see it.
Yeah.
That they dumbed it down for the audience.
Yeah. Well, they had actual physicists write equations on the board and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, they had the same physicist as their consultant the entire time.
Yeah.
The story of Sheldon Cooper and what he does in mathematics is following that physicist's career.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I didn't know that specifically.
Yeah, fun fact.
That's interesting. Yeah, I always kind of wondered. I'm like, they have to like walking the line of like his discoveries. It can't be something impossible, right? I mean, it could be, but then if they'd be living like in a weird like futuristic time. But it also can't be something that's already been discovered, because then it's already been discovered. He wouldn't be discovering anything. It wouldn't be applicable to a modern audience. So I always wondered how they walked that line of like discovering things and like finding out new things and stuff like that. That's interesting.
I mean, really, you could make it all up because nobody in the audience understands what they're talking about.
I guess, but it
I've proved string theory.
Yeah.
To most people in the audience, they're like, cool, what's string theory?
Yeah.
And to the people who actually truly understand it, they're like,
they're not watching.
No, you didn't.
They're not watching Big Bang Theory. The people who actually understand it,
right?
Sure, I guess so. I guess I wouldn't know. Which is, I guess I wouldn't. Oh well, a little blow to my head or whatever. Do you want to
close out with the funnest paradox ever?
The funnest paradox, the most funnest paradox of all time.
This is a paradox. It's not really. It's just 2 like colloquialisms put together, right?
Yep.
Buttered toast always lands butter side down.
Oh, yes, I know where you're getting with that. Yep.
And a cat always lands on its feet.
Yep. So
if I strap a piece of buttered toast to the back of a cat and then drop it,
yeah, yep.
What happens?
Yep. I forgot about this. I completely forgot about this. This is so much. That's such a fun one.
I have a conclusion.
Oh, you do?
It is something that I concluded on my own, but I am not the first to conclude it about this paradox.
Okay.
This is in my mind what would happen. Drop the cat.
Yeah.
Before it hits the ground, it doesn't hit the ground. It's right above the ground. It starts spinning.
It just starts spinning and never actually touches.
Yes.
We created
because both these laws of physics are fighting.
That's how
they're like
we create
perpetual motion.
Right, well, perpetual motion and hoverboards. Just strap a buttered cat to the bottom of something.
Yes, we have just extended humanity so far into the future.
Yeah, I know. Come on, why isn't someone got on this like scientists? Like, geez, just. It's PETA, that's what it is. PETA won't let us do it. That's the only reason why this would never work.
Never mind.
Oh.
I'm going to hold that.
I got excited. Oh, well. That's a fun one. And yes. I'm definitely, okay, this is an actual Luke promise. No, we did this off air, didn't we? We talked about this off air. Apparently, I made a Luke promise in episode 3 or 4, I think it was.
4.
And I didn't follow through with it.
Yeah,
so now
you still have time. You can fix it.
Yeah, I still have time. I guess I can. Whatever. Fine. I'll do it for you, Devin. No, actually. Oh, I have a. Okay. Yeah. Don't worry. I will do that for you. I have a really funny idea about it. But I'm gonna make another Luke promise. Next week, for my Secrets Uncovered, I'll be talking about logic that I've learned that I had not known before, like how to actually do formal logic.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so I'm basically gonna
So now
go
you
and be
have
like,
homework.
"Oh, this is how to properly reason. I was doing it wrong before." That's my Luke promise. Is that next week I'll be equipped.
Talk to me about resources or things you might want.
Yes. Well, do you have any?
Like,
Do you have any that you want to say on air, or no?
Like reference points?
Well, resources
Or,
that
like-
anyone can find education around logic, or no?
Oh, so
Not to put you on
my
the spot,
biggest
but-
my biggest issue is that I learned formal logic through mathematics.
Right.
So where I learned what would traditionally be taught in introduction to logic was an introduction to proofs.
Got it. Okay.
Because it's absolutely necessary. Proofs and
Right.
logic are very closely related. So like I have Introduction to Logic by Kopi, Cohen, and Mick Mahon.
Okay.
And that's been a good resource. But as far as like topics, there is logical notation that looks like gibberish that's super valuable to learn.
Okay.
And super valuable to understand, and it starts talking about things like logical structure and contrapositives, and the fundamentals of how all of these things are figured out and concluded come from something called truth tables.
Truth tables. Okay.
So start your learning in logic by studying truth tables and
Okay.
figuring those out.
Okay. I'm doing this for a later truth table.
Also noteworthy, like one of my favorite apologists that I follow.
Yeah.
It's just funny. I saw a reply that he made to a comment on one of his blog posts. And in the comment, the person says that they see a flaw in his logic, and then they go in to explain the concern that they have.
Yeah.
His response was to express his argument in logical notation, and then point out the logic is ironclad. The misunderstanding that you're having is...
Nice.
and it was just so entertaining because I'm like, I guarantee the person you're responding to,
Yeah.
none of that meant anything to them.
Right.
You have not convinced them that your logic is ironclad.
Yeah.
You have convinced me.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like,
That is actually, that's a really interesting thing. Yeah, I'll probably remember, so as I go through this, because I think I've done truth tables before, maybe in math, because I'm honestly, most of my maybe, no? Okay, maybe not then.
did you ever get past differential equations?
Maybe. I mean, I took all of calculus 1, so no.
So, no.
Okay, no, never mind then. Maybe something else. Truth tables sound vaguely
Did
familiar
you
to
take
me.
statistics?
I think I took some statistics. Honestly, dude,
I don't-
I barely remember. My education.
I don't know.
I mean, this is why I'm not a fan of the modern education system. I remember basically nothing.
I don't know anybody who hasn't majored in mathematics or philosophy that's learned truth tables.
Oh, really? Okay, maybe not then.
Yeah.
Maybe I saw them somewhere. Maybe I didn't. But dude, honestly, you know my mind. I don't trust. I don't trust what I remember. Like I have no idea. So yeah. So that's my Luke promise. To have a hilarious, fun image that's going to be posted and shared. And then for a previous episode that I said I would do. And then I'm going to learn about, I'm going to do my best to spend time in quarantine learning about logic. And then next week I'll come with some of the interesting things that I didn't realize I was missing.
I've also made up my mind in affirmative as a teaser for next week.
Okay.
I will be talking about the proof that I did that got me my degree in mathematics.
Yeah. I can't wait. Honestly, I have a feeling that it's going to be like, what we might do next time is I'll just like listen to you. Because if I talk about like the logic I learned, like the basis of logic, then you could go into your proof, and because I assume that will take a long time.
I don't know. It depends on how deep I want to go, and
True.
because
Just read it.
I
read
don't.
what you
What
wrote.
I don't think that I can do, what I honestly don't think
Yeah.
that I can do, is just present my proof.
Okay. Well, then
Basic like, I think it would just be, well, I don't think you'd be able to follow it.
Okay,
Luke,
that's fine.
let alone our audience.
Yeah.
No offense to our audience,
Yeah.
but our audience
No,
is
I
me
mean, if
and
I
Luke.
can't follow it, there's no way our audience will be able to follow it.
And we could try, but
Okay.
the more interesting thing to me would be just like discussing it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
because there's some corollaries and some assumptions and some definitions that are really fun to talk about.
Yeah.
And then the conclusion's fun to talk about, and
Mm-hmm.
as is needed, I'll dig into the why and the what.
Okay. So in other words, next time on Overthinking, Luke will present his lack of knowledge, and Devin will show his graduate proof. Next time on Overthinking.
Undergrad, but
Undergrad. I don't know, dude. I just said the word. I mean, honestly, do you expect me to do anything else than just say the first word that comes to mind?
If I expected you to understand the things you were saying, I wouldn't have done this show with you.
That's fine. Everyone, we just, we need a yin and a yang, right?
Yeah.
You're the yin, I'm the yang. Just yanging all over the place. Just yanging out.
Sure, I feel like Yang's a negative one, so I feel like that should have been me, but sure.
I'm pretty sure I'm the negative, but anyway. Thanks for listening. Devin, you want to plug stuff for you?
Nah.
Okay, cool. I don't either. Go to overthinkingpodcast.com to find the hilarious Devin show notes.
Best show notes in the biz.
Best show notes in the biz.
By far.
By far away. And email us with your thoughts, logical quandaries. That's a quandary.
Picking up words.
That's a quandary and a conundrum mixed in one. At overthinkingpodcastshow@gmail.com. And oh shoot,
Bye.
Devin, wait, we never thought of an intro.
We have intros.
No, an outro.
I said the
Oh,
intro.
oops. Yeah,
Yeah.
no. Aha. We still don't have an outro.